Farming the poor man, right? Tim Cain, my worst job interview. Let's jump in.
Hi everyone, it's me, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Today I want to talk about my worst job interview.
Yeah.
Now, I've done videos where I've talked about job interviews from the hiring side, about questions I like to ask and tests I like to give.
You should watch that
I've
too.
even talked about questions I've received while looking for a job, and those videos are linked below.
Okay.
But
We're gonna watch that
today I
one
want
after.
to talk about the absolute worst experience I ever had looking for a job. And this came about because I was talking with colleagues in the industry about their worst job interviews, and these horrible ones came up about, sexist remarks and really long
Really?
tests that were work for the project they were interviewing for, just bad questions. And it reminded me that I usually told one job interview story that happened just a few years ago, but I realized I had another really awful one that happened near the beginning of my career.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you both of them. The first one, I'll start with the one early in my career in '91, and it was at McDonnell Douglas. What happened here was I decided in '91 I wanted to go make games again, and
Yeah.
my thesis advisor told me, my PhD thesis advisor, I'd finished my master's, said, "You're wasting your time. Don't go make games." And I was like, I kind of want to do this. He goes, "Well, at least for my peace of mind, at least interview for a job that I think would be appropriate for your skills." And he set me up with a job interview at McDonnell Douglas, which had a local office. So let
What
me
is
set.
McDonnell Douglas? McDonnell Douglas was a major American aerospace Okay, so aerospace manufacturing and defense contractor. Okay. I didn't know that. Sounds like an aircraft. You and your aircraft. I bet you're the one leaking confidential stuff on the War Thunder forums, aren't you? Panzer Wolf Alpha. I want to go for a shipping company position. Was invited due to my CV and the uni I finished, but the lady started with, "Usually we only hire women for this position, but we wanted to invite you because of your education." Didn't get the job, not even a callback. I can share. I don't remember if it was like a bad interview, but it was one that I'm still upset about, kind of, because I had interviewed for CD Projekt Red, right? They had called me, and it was for a live operation designer for um it listed that it was for Gwent, if I remember correctly. Or no, it was for Throne. Either way, they listed it was for one, either like Thronebreaker or Gwent or whatever. And I had studied that game up preparing for the interview. I had written a whole bunch of information about what I think was good and what I think was bad, and interesting ideas I had for events that we could do as part of the live operation. Because a live operations designer is like designing events and ways we can keep engagement going forward. And so I had written a whole bunch of information about that. I get into the interview. I start talking about the game. I go on for like 10 minutes sharing all my information, all ideas. And they said, I'm sorry, but this was for live operations for this other game that we had. And I'm like, well, I'm also interested in doing it for that game, but I don't have anything prepared for that. As you can expect, I did not get the job. But it was their fault. They put the other game up on the. I don't know if there was like some internal communication error or if they had listed the job incorrectly or what. I don't know what happened. But clearly, the job I had, the game I had prepared for in that job interview, based on what they had put in the offer, was not the one that they were hiring for, and it was embarrassing and kind of sad. It was like, well, shit, you know, whatever. I'm kind of glad that I didn't get that in the end because I don't want to work for CD Projekt Red, but yeah, still sucks. All my other interviews have gone pretty well. I don't have really any bad experiences with interviews. I only have bad experiences with trying to get interviews in game dev because you will send out hundreds of applications and really only get an interview once or twice. Showed initiative to do the work, their loss. Yeah, I mean, I would have been fine working on the other game. I just didn't prepare for it. So it was like, I don't know. I was still pretty junior at that time though, so maybe I just didn't have the skill either way. Why wouldn't you want to work for CD Projekt Red? Too big, too corporatized, too many problems with producing their games. I wouldn't want to work there. I mean, I'm sure I could learn a lot and meet a lot of people, but nah, nah. You'd be a tiny drop in the bucket, making absolutely no real impact on the games that you're working on, and you have like 10 different people that you need to answer to. And I'm sure that you can be so easily replaced because you're just doing this finite, tiny job that I don't want to work there. Fuck that. I like having more of a larger impact on the games that I work on, even if the games may not be as critically acclaimed or as large in scope as Cyberpunk or something, or Witcher. Insert number here. Secretly hates the Polish. Yeah, I don't know. I think you can make good games without being in such a large team, and I kind of prefer the challenge of that than being shoehorned into this specific role that I'm only going to learn how to do that for the next 5 years. What about Tim though? What's his?
Set the mood for you. I show up in a borrowed Italian suit from a friend of mine, smiling,
Nice.
eager to do this. You know, I'm in grad school. I've only had one job before in my life, and it was,
Yeah.
you know, at Pegasus, Cybron, making Grand Sign Bridge. But I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you what they were like. It was 3 people, 2 men and a woman, in a barren room, like framed walls with no drywall on them, and a bare incandescent light bulb hanging from a wire.
What the fuck?
I was like, what is going
It's
on?
like a
They all
start of a
look really
horror
tired.
movie.
They sit down, they do a quick review of me and my work background, which isn't very long. So they start talking about my graduate work, and I say I do AI, you know, graph traversal, integrated learning. They get very interested. They start asking me a lot of questions about organizing schedules. And it's very specific. It's very specific. It's like, what if you had to schedule trucks and planes to deliver packages all around the continental United States? And I'm like, well, that's a version of traveling salesman. And they're like, we know. And I was like, okay. Well, that has no polynomial algorithms. It's NP complete. So all of the known solutions to give you the best, all the known algorithms to give you the best solutions are exponential, but there are some polynomial heuristics if you're willing to get a good solution. They're like, yeah, that's what we want. And I'm like, okay. Again, it was very strange, very aggressive and specific.
The fuck?
So I started talking about simulated annealing, which back in 91 was something new. And it was basically doing hill climbing in the search space. But when you got to the top of a hill, you could jump and then do hill climbing from the new random place you jumped to.
I have no idea what any of this means, okay? Just know when I'm nodding my head and laughing, I'm assuming he knows what he's talking about. Stuff about he's a brainiac. Yeah, I don't know any of this stuff. This is not my purview. I can talk about game design for days and days without taking a break, but once you start talking about polynomials and all these algorithms, it's like, sounds amazing. What a nerd, yeah.
See if you ended up somewhere higher. If you did, you jump from there. If you didn't, you'd come back to where you jumped from and jump again. And it was named after simulated annealing, where you take a metal and you cool it down.
Yeah.
And as it cools down, it settles into a lattice that's very strong. The cooling down here was over time you wouldn't let yourself jump as far after each.
That was his wokage, not mine. I don't know if you guys heard that too.
Hill climbing.
I don't think that was mine.
Each subsequent jump was a little closer until you weren't really jumping at all, and then you were done. And you said, well, this local maxima, I think, is a global maxima. It's a heuristic, but it works. I was describing this. They were taking notes. 2 of them were scribbling furiously. One of them looked up and went, how do you spell annealing? And
There's
finally
no
I
way they
went,
just stole it.
Stop. What is going on? This room, these questions, this feels like an interrogation, not an interview. And they finally
It
said,
takes a lot of balls to say that. A lot of respect for being able to just stand up for yourself during an interview like that. You know, because oftentimes you can be like desperate to get the job, so you don't want to piss them off. You want to make a good impression, but you know, a good business relationship with an employee it's a two-way street. You need to be a good employer, and they need to be a good employee. And I don't want to hire somebody who's just like a yes man, right? Who just comes in and doesn't have any pushback. A lot of respect for Tim for doing that, especially at an early age.
Well, we took on this contract with FedEx, and we're supposed to improve their package scheduling, and
It looked like a
nothing
crack. I
we've
don't think
done
you need
has
respect.
improved it. And I'm like, okay, if you had told me about that, because FedEx was well known for having done a very unusual thing where they flew all their packages to one node. I think it was in Atlanta. Did all the sorting there and then flew it back to local to airports, and then trucks picked it up and did all the local delivery, because they found that was faster to do sorting in one spot than, like, if you wanted to send a package from LA to San Francisco, they discovered it made more sense to just still sort it, fly it to Atlanta and sort it, and then fly it up to San Francisco, then put it on a truck.
That's so weird. For people who don't know the USA, I'll show you on the map. I'll show you what he's explaining. Not in Poland. So they found that it was easier to go from take a package from here to here all the way to fly it here, rather than just going directly from LA to San Fran. That's crazy. I did not know that. That's so wild. That's just seems like so wasteful. The fuck? When assassin interview took place 5 minutes before that. that place, right? But they assassinated the capabilities of their planes, not a person.
To go up to San Francisco from
Taylor
LA.
Swift
Because
approves.
doing sorting in multiple places, doing sorting here and then moving it to Atlanta and doing more sorting there, took more time. And they were optimizing for time, not distance, because FedEx were getting there overnight.
True.
I was kind of weirded out by this. They had a project, they had a contract that they were getting behind on, and they were basically interrogating me for new ways of doing it.
Yep.
They explained too that their conference room was under construction, which is why we were in this what would have been a janitor's closet that they cleared out and put a desk in and the light bulb. So the whole thing was strange. So I went back and told my advisor that was strange. I went to the Interplay interview. They offered me less money than FedEx, than McDonnell Douglas. McDonnell Douglas offered me a job. Interplay offered me a job for less money. I was basically told I'd have to prove myself. They ignored my first job. I went with Interplay anyway because I really wanted to make games. So that's my first
smart decision.
That was for the longest time.
In the long run.
That was in 1991. That was my worst interview story. Now let's jump to 2018. And I'm going to keep this vague because I don't want anyone to point fingers at people and get mad at them. This was late 2018. I was working on Outer Worlds at Obsidian. I was happy. I was going to get it done. The plan was I finished it, move up to Seattle. Boom, boom. I get an email from a top person at a big company. I'm not going to say where, but you've heard of this company. You've probably heard of this person. Big company, lots of...
Todd Howard. How much you want to bet? If he says you've heard of the company and heard of the person, and RPG games, the first person for me that comes to mind is Todd Howard. It just works. I might be wrong. It could be someone else, but everything connects.
IPs. And he says, I have a big opportunity for you.
Starfield.
Now, I'm not going to tell you whether or not they were local, but this person said, I can meet you at this local restaurant. So I just basically met them for lunch. And I will admit, I was super, super excited. I spent the next few days...
Or it would have been for Elder Scrolls 6. If it was 2018, it might have been that they were wanting to get him for pre-production for Elder Scrolls 6. I mean, if it is for sure Todd Howard. I don't know where Todd Howard lives. I mean, I assume he lives in Bethesda, Maryland, at their studios, but yeah, I don't know. You think it's Todd too? It just sounds like Todd. If you know the company, know the IPs, know the person, and they're higher up at a company, it's gotta be Todd. He was in the walls of the Bethesda office. Engine is a dead horse. Need to just stop now while they're behind. I kind of disagree. I think that the creation engine is one of the greatest engines ever made in games, but that it has its problems that I don't think the team at Bethesda knows how to properly address. I actually think that the engine technology and changes they did for Starfield are exceptional. It's great. And I'm excited to see what they do for Elder Scrolls 6. It's just that the team behind making these games has every little game that Bethesda makes seems to take one little chip off here and there with what an RPG actually is. And every game they make seems to feel less and less like an RPG than before. But that's a whole different topic. Whole different topic.
This is going to be amazing. Do I get to work in one of their big famous IPs? And they have huge teams, so many resources at my disposal. Or do I get to create a new IP for them? Oh my God, if I created an IP at that company, that would be amazing.
It's definitely
and
Bethesda.
Yeah, some of the stuff they did was very adjacent to stuff I work on. So I'm super excited. Drive over there for lunch. Sit down with them. Says hi. Turns out we had met once before. He didn't remember me. It's okay. He works at a big company, meets way more people than I do. And then he says, I have a huge opportunity that I think would
Actually, I don't think it's Todd. I doubt it because I feel like Todd would remember Tim Cain, the creator of Fallout. You know, an IP that they now own. This is almost more important to me to figure out who it could be. I don't know. The worker comes into Bethesda, obviously starts working, and the lamps start to tremble, and some dust falls from the ceiling. The new person asks, "What was that?" And some senior dev goes, "Yeah, Todd Howard woke up, and he just like whispers his directions that he wants you to take from the walls. You just like start hearing. It's like a H.P. Lovecraft book, right? Like the rats in the walls. But instead of hearing rats scurrying, you just hear Todd Howard telling you to change the design of something. I don't know. Maybe it isn't Todd. Maybe it's someone else.
be perfect for you. I want you to be our localization producer.
What? Can you imagine how insulting that is to someone like Tim Cain, who's designed and programmed for some of the most well-known RPGs in history, and you contact him and say, I want you to be in charge of localization? Nah, dude, it's in 2018. This is not like early in his career. This is after he's about ready to retire. You know, this is his one last job. We need you for one last job, Tim. You're going to be a localization producer. Your legacy is going to end handling localization for our game. What? It seems so unreal that if it wasn't Tim, and I know that he's probably not lying about this at all, I would just say, nah, dude, that's bullshit. You're just trying to shock me with a funny story.
And I just stared at him. I didn't say anything, which, if you kind of know me from watching this channel, talking is kind of my strong suit.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't say anything. What was going through my head was, how did I misread this?
Yeah.
Or I mean, and then immediately flipped to, am I so egotistical that I thought he would know who I was and he'd want me to make an IP for his big company? Am I that bad at this? And basically, I was like, what is happening in my head?
Yeah, that's true. It's like, do I still need to, am I missing something? Do I still need to learn something in order to become a lead designer again or a creative director? How could, I don't even understand how this happens. Did he think he was meeting with someone else? Did like he get the name wrong, or I don't even know.
Spinning. He realized something was wrong.
For sure this is Todd. Look on Steam. What do you mean? QuakeCon sale for sure.
And he's like, because I hadn't said anything. I bad at this. And basically I was like, what is happening? And my head was spinning. He realized something was wrong. And he's like, because I hadn't said anything. I was just kind of looking at him going, which I don't ever do. So I explained to him my history, like what I've done, what I'm known for, what my employment history.
Yeah.
And it was like a light bulb went off in his head, and he immediately apologized. He said there must have been a crossed wire. I'm gonna check with my assistant. Maybe I was supposed to be meeting with someone else. I'm really sorry. Let's just chat and have fun and talk trade industry stories, and I'll pick up lunch and everything will be happy. Now, I was driving home in a weird mood
Yeah.
because what I saw as a big opportunity turned into, as a phrase a friend of mine likes to say, a nothing burger.
Well, how could it not affect your? I mean, like, I don't think Tim has an ego, but how could it not hurt your ego a bit that you're meeting with somebody well known as well? Tim is well known, who's worked on games similar to yours, and they just kind of they don't know you so much, or did even any like history search into what you have done that just goes so wrong. Like, how could it not affect your ego a bit to make you think like, well, what the fuck am I? And you think it's Todd? I just don't know. There's no way that it could be Todd. Unless it was just like some purposeful slap in the face. You want to be a janitor in my company? That's so weird. Well, what happened? What happened, Tim?
And I was super excited, and I was driving home in a very different state. It was hard to process that meeting. So, like everything, I take notes. So, let me read to you. This is this isn't directly from the notes. This is a direct quote from the memoir
Yeah.
that I wrote that I will never go out. From my notes. And it's a quote. Quote. Driving home, I was having trouble processing how I felt. I wasn't angry. I wasn't disappointed. I wasn't sad. I finally realized how I felt. I was embarrassed. I had let myself think for a few days before that lunch that someone had finally recognized my work, that someone powerful had seen the IPs I worked on directly, Fallout, Arcanum, Wildstar, Outer Worlds, and those that I helped create, Pillars of Eternity, Tyranny, and thought, let's back this guy and see what he can do with a huge set of resources under his control. And I had fantasized about what kind of game that would be. I had lots of ideas, lots of notebooks filled with potential new IPs, but no, he asked me to be a localization producer. He had no idea who I was or what I had done. I had spent a few happy days thinking he did, and now I was just embarrassed.
That's sad.
So, those are the two worst interviews I ever had. One near the beginning of my career, one near the end. So, what was your worst interview?
It definitely doesn't compare to those. Oh, Jesus. I feel sad for that. That just is so. That's so messed up. I don't think there's anything wrong with maybe just not knowing the full extent of what somebody does, but to get their history so wrong like that is kind of just insulting. I don't even know. I was in the chess club, now he's making games. Well, I mean, if this was Todd, he failed the chess match here. Wow. Wow. I have no words to describe that. I really want to know who it is. I don't think I'll ever for sure know, because I thought Todd lives in Maryland. And this is Tim on the other side of, the other coast, on the West Coast. I don't know. That's wild. Everybody's mentioning the McDonnell Douglas one, but wow. Due to Tim, the packages from Amazon don't come as quickly as they could. Oh man, if you guys wanna watch this yourselves or give it a like, please subscribe to Tim. He just makes some of the greatest content for game dev, and he does it in a much more short form way than me. I'll tell you that. So, thank you for watching that one. Thank you, YouTube. Bye, YouTube, for that one.